I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for our webinar, Oracle EPM Cloud, The Future is Now. Today's webinar will begin in just a moment, but in the meantime, I just have a couple of quick housekeeping items to go over. Today's webinar is being recorded, and you'll receive a link to the recording once it's available. All participants will be muted, but you'll notice on the right-hand navigation, there's a question box. If you have any questions or technical difficulties, please reach out to us. And any questions for the presenters will be addressed at the end of the webinar, but please, you can go ahead and enter them at any time. We're excited to have Dan Dosman and John Engeswick here with us today, who have over 30 years of Hyperion and Oracle EPM Cloud experience. I know they're looking forward to educating you on this topic and helping you to determine your next steps so you can begin to plan for the future. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Erica. I'm Dan Dosman. I'm Managing Director for the EPM Consulting Practice at Emtec and our financial services vertical as well. Briefly, I've spent about 20 years in the enterprise performance management consulting space, working often with clients in an advisory capacity to assess their financial systems capabilities and to craft strategies for enhancing their enterprise performance through system architecture blueprints and execution roadmaps. I've also led many implementation engagements, including most all of the Oracle Hyperion and EPM cloud applications. And I'm speaking to you today from Columbus, Ohio.
Hey everybody, I'm John Engeswick. I'm coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm an Emtec EPM Oracle project manager here, and before that I was with Oracle about 7 years as a solution engineer. And before that, I was with Hyperion. So glad to see so many people out there and taking your time out of your day to listen to us. But I won't bore you with my details, but I'll turn it back to Dan.
Thanks, John. And one last quick introduction. John and I are part of the Emtec Consulting Services team. We provide advisory and implementation services for Oracle applications with practices that are centered on the ERP business applications, enterprise performance management, and analytics, along with a managed services practice that provides ongoing administrative and support services. Emtec also has lines of business that provide advanced digital service, as well as infrastructure services, including laptops and secure access technologies for remote workers. So we're here today because we feel like, well, there is a lot of talk about going to the cloud, that it seems like the message is sometimes blurry and it's hard to trust all of the things that you hear. So we've tried to distill our talk to a few key points. We want to share our perspective regarding why is this an important topic right now versus 2 years ago or 2 years from now? Why is it that Oracle's EPM cloud deserves serious consideration as your next step in your finance system strategy? What other clients have experienced when they've moved from on-premise Hyperion implementations to the cloud, and what it can mean to your business to head down this path. So let's start by taking a look at why this is such an urgent topic. Now, my apologies for diving right into some technical details, but the very nature of the difference between legacy on-premise applications and the cloud is what's driving the current dialogue. We all know that on-premise applications need to be patched regularly and upgraded from time to time. Well, the reality is that every single Hyperion application that was implemented prior to this year, prior to 2020, has to be replaced by December 2021. Oracle Premier support for those applications ends then, and there'll be no extended support available. But that isn't the only issue you may be facing that may drive your decision and time frame. If you haven't gone through a major upgrade in the past few years, you may be running on older servers with operating systems or database versions that your IT department would like to replace with a more current version, perhaps one that's no longer being supported by the vendor. And if you're using Hyperion Planning version 11.123, you will lose important functionality at the end of this year when Adobe Flash is no longer available. So basically, everyone listening to this webinar has to make a move in the coming months. So the real question is, what is your next step? Well, this is what the Gartner Group is saying about the direction of key financial systems. The vast majority of new sales for FP&A systems are cloud-based. This isn't to say that on-premise is dead, but it does say that the playing field has shifted. The focus is on the cloud. But perhaps more than that, when organizations are facing an investment in these as new systems, when they do the due diligence into alternatives, far more often than not, they select the cloud. And you have to ask why that is when on-premise applications have such a rich history and have proven themselves for years, even for decades. I think that it says that the cloud is standing up to scrutiny, that it's not just a fad or even a trend, that it's a strong, proven option. And for most, the compelling choice. But what about just doing an upgrade anyway? Well, an upgrade is absolutely an option. Oracle released the long-awaited EPM version 11.2 in late December of 2019. And this is an important upgrade. Oracle is committing to provide support for this version through at least 2030. Security patches will be available and there will be some feature enhancements. So for some, this is a good option, at least for the interim, but it's not a no-brainer. Right now, for example, options are a bit limited. Now, this is expected to change in the coming months, but at this time, Oracle is only certifying 11.2 for one operating system, Windows 2019, and with only recent versions of the Oracle database. And that's okay for some companies, and others may be able to afford to wait for additional certifications that are in process, for example, for Linux and AIX. There are other considerations too. Some things are different with the new EPM version. 11.2 does not and will not support Enterprise Performance Management Architect, or EPMA. So changes are needed if you're currently using EPMA. And for Hyperion planning, purpose-specific modules that many organizations have adopted are no longer part of the EPM 11.2 software installation and aren't being supported by Oracle. So modules like workforce planning, capital and projects planning, human capital planning, public sector planning and budgeting, they're all phased out. Now you can still move your planning modules to EPM 11.2. The modules themselves consist of special dimensionality and business rules and forms and reports, which are supported on the new version, and they don't rely on unique application code. But you should realize that at minimum, they do not align with the future of the on-premise applications, and you may encounter complications as you migrate them. And there's some functionality that just won't be available with 11.2. So for example, Hyperion Strategic Finance, a separate application, is not part of EPM 11.2. If that's part of your application suite today, you'll need to make other plans for the future. And the Oracle Cloud is an option for that. And not to sound too dire of a warning, Oracle will release new features for 11.2 in the future through patch sets, though you should expect that any feature enhancements will lag a bit behind the release in the cloud. So let's step back and look at your options. There's a lot going on in this slide, most of it in the bottom half of the screen. And basically what it depicts is that if you're currently an on-premise Oracle Hyperion customer, start by asking yourself if you're ready to consider the cloud. And if the answer is no, and it may be if, for example, your enterprise is not open to moving to the cloud, then you have to navigate a path to an upgrade to 11.2. Reviewing Oracle upgrade guidance, you'll see that if you're on an older 11.23 version, 11.123 version, you must first upgrade to 11.124. And then if you're using EPMA, you have to convert to classic mode. Now, Oracle does offer a limited use license of their data relationship management application, DRM, to replace EPMA, and DRM is a highly valuable application. It goes by the name of Enterprise Data Management in the EPM Enterprise Cloud Services offering. But then at this point, you get to the traditional upgrade activities, such as provisioning new servers, installing new application software, migrating all of your artifacts and data from the current applications to the new servers and validating it all. Not to sound like I'm trying to cast this in a negative light, but you will face these considerations again. Components of the infrastructure environment will go out of support and will require updates in the future. So if you ask your IT team how long they will support new servers if you upgrade now, don't expect them to say that those servers will be okay until 2030. You'll have upgrades in your future, even if they're not driven by the Oracle application software. Now, in contrast, when you're ready to migrate to the Oracle Cloud, your options are somewhat simpler, as illustrated in the top half of the diagram. If you're looking for the least cost, fastest alternative, you can migrate directly from either 11.1 to 11.1.2.3 or 11.1.2.4 to the cloud. It's a relatively simple process for our Hyperion planning implementations. For HFM, Hyperion Financial Management applications, it's a bit more involved. Oracle provides migration utilities that streamline the migration of metadata and reports for HFM, but a lot of what has been custom built in HFM will be replaced by built-in functionality in FCCS. So the migration is not quite automatic. But don't overlook the opportunity to do better and automatically go for a simple migration. You may have pain points in your current processes that you'd like to address. A migration may be the opportunity to look at new practices that other companies have found to give them better results. And there is a significant amount of built-in functionality in cloud planning and financial close and consolidation that you might well benefit from adopting if you're open to considering changes to your current processes. And Oracle is now bundling multiple applications in even the EPM standard cloud services. You may find that automating account reconciliations or automating your quarterly financial report publications may be a pretty compelling, unexpected, and low-cost opportunity when you move to the cloud. So now let's take a look at some of the biggest reasons that companies haven't already moved to the cloud. So we'll talk through these fears, uncertainties, and doubts that have previously led organizations to defer a decision to move to the cloud. Among these are aversion to taking on change, or worries about the need for customizations, of course, a deep concern for security of financial systems. But we'll also talk about concerns around giving up control of the application environment, worries about how users will adopt the new solutions, and of course, the cost of moving to the cloud. So now I am going to pass the virtual microphone on to John to talk about these factors.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Take a sip of water. You need to stay hydrated. So fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that's FUD. And, you don't know what you don't know. And the first one we want to address is change. And what we've been finding when we're talking to companies over the past few years is the best in class companies, and it might be your competitors, are now leading with a cloud-based approach. And it can start off with a simple migration or to reinvent your process. We see that when their companies merge or acquire different companies or even downsize. The pace of change, it's accelerating. Business uncertainty is the new norm, and we're currently living that right now. And the demand for quick information has never been greater. Companies that we talk to must accelerate their financial process, and that's what we talk to them about. And that goes across multiple sites, location systems, and support their forecasting, planning, analysis, budgeting, and their financial close. They want that in near real time. So it's a lot easier to adapt best practice with the cloud. So next is customization, and on-premise EPM systems have served finance and accounting functions well to date. We all, have had a lot of them in our past feature and our current roles. But when you take them to the cloud, you can reimagine your processes and really boost your productivity and flexibility of your teams. New technologies, for example, are changing how finance operates, which makes, for a flexible way to do your day-to-day work. There's pre-built functionality You don't have to know how to code, to make enhancements. And thanks to machine learning and process automation, it makes being able to change on the fly a lot easier. When you migrate to a cloud-based EPM solution, you can access these features and functionalities to gain greater efficiencies and improve the quality of your decision making. The next one is security, and this is always a big topic when we talk about cloud EPM, but the Oracle Cloud is built around multiple layers of security. And, IT teams like this, and it has multiple levels of defense throughout the technology stack, giving your company safer technology. With the process and people trained that Oracle has in place, the security policies are maintained by people and technology in physical data centers. The people that Oracle employs are industry-leading cybersecurity pros who are trained on the Oracle software security assurance practice. And these are Oracle badged employees, so they're not contractors, and they manage 19 worldwide data centers. Let me just give you some quotes on some statistics here, but they have over 1,000 plus SaaS applications in these data centers with 98 million users daily, and they're hitting 70,000 enterprise tenants. So 19 of the top 20 cloud providers were actually run at Oracle. Another quote I like was, senior security decision makers agree that cloud providers are better able to keep security measures current and up to date better than they can. And 78% of them say the cloud can improve both their company security and their agility. The next one is control. And so you're not going to lose control, like Dan mentioned before, in your on-premise applications and moving them, reporting to the cloud. You'll be able to align your EPM, your ERP, all your data, your operational processes for greater control and agility. And in most cases, it'll be easier to do. We're seeing that only the Oracle EPM Cloud delivers purpose-built solutions for every EPM process in your business. All these processes are seamlessly connected for complete control, within the finance and accounting and also your operational line of businesses, which gives you agility across your org. Competing solutions give you what I would call process silos. You customize an application built for a single process, and you have a band-aid approach. You're not having that vision. And Oracle EPM Cloud seamlessly connects, with core ERP systems or 360-degree integration, best-in-class practices, and regular updates that development making the latest and greatest technology while they're available to roll out, a lot sooner than your on-prem applications, and it might not even make it to the on-prem. We know that the costs associated with upgrades can be substantial and include implementation consultants and hardware refreshes. And the user adoption. So when compared to deploying a single point software application, such as consolidations at month end or planning and budgeting annually, an EPM Cloud Suite offers the best advantage for user adoption. Planning can be a basic migration with quick results. We've seen that, at the beginning of this. A complete solution integrates management processes across your org, aligning the vision of the CFO or CIO with the execution of your team. You gain improved visibility with insight to all aspects of your business. The nice thing is it has built-in tools available for migrating data and other applications. And the most effective EPM solutions are integrated suites that help you leverage your investments through seamless data and process integration with their core ERP and operational data systems. So cloud users, the advantage is it's getting easier to use, and you have pre-built dashboards and KPIs or scorecards. So when you open up your desktop, you see what we call infolets, and they're real-time pictures on how you're doing. So cloud-specific features also, which we like, is a higher return on investment and a lower total cost of ownership. And this leads into a discussion about the last major topic that we always hear about is that, how much is it going to cost? So I'm going to turn it back over to Dan, and he's going to walk you through a couple scenarios that we discuss with our clients. It seems like daily, at least weekly, right now. So Dan, back over to you.
Thank you, John. So let's take a deeper look at these cost considerations, and let's do it by looking at three alternatives over a 3-year period. The first one being moving to the cloud now, the second one being staying on premise with an upgrade to 11.2, and the third being an upgrade to 11.2 for an interim period with a move to the cloud 2 years down the road. So first, let's consider infrastructure costs, which are pictured in red in this graph. So there's no infrastructure spend for the cloud, but any upgrade to EPM 11.2 will require new servers to be provisioned, either as physical server purchases or virtual server provisioning, or perhaps a mix of the two. Most of our clients tend to have 4 to 6 servers in their on-premise environments, and most have 2 to 3 separate environments for development, QA, and production. And these servers all carry licenses for operating systems, databases, security software, and other utilities. So there's a decent slice of it is the infrastructure costs. Then the next piece up, the light blue layer in the diagram, is software support fees. And we're showing 3 years of annual maintenance costs here for the center on-premise example, with 2 years of maintenance in the third example, followed by a move to the cloud. We've assumed roughly 25 users of planning and HFM for that example. And then we get to the green layer, which is the ongoing maintenance, specifically of the on-premise environment. So 4 servers in 3 environments represents a low-end estimate of 12 servers that need to be backed up, patched, and supported on a regular basis. That's going to take some amount of FTE from an IT organization dedicated to addressing those servers. So now we get to the yellow layer. In the case of the EPM cloud applications, they're sold as software as a service, or a SaaS model. And the cost of the monthly per user fees are represented here in yellow for 3 years in the first example and 1 year in the third hybrid example. And finally, that gets us to the dark blue layer, which is where we come in, the professional implementation services. And this example centers on maintaining the status quo. So we're representing a basic migration to the cloud with a simple migration from on-premise. Note that in the third scenario, with an interim upgrade, you're actually going through the cycle twice. You require an initial upgrade followed by an additional migration to the cloud at a later date, hence the higher professional services. So you should also keep in mind that for this middle example, the costs are projected for a 3-year period. But if you stay on premise, as we've mentioned, your IT organization will likely require you to upgrade your server environment in less than 10 years. So there'll be additional cost on top of that to maintain. So if at this point you think you might be moving to the cloud, then I think the question becomes, what should you expect? So we've illustrated here a basic migration to the cloud, and you can see it can happen pretty quickly. But to be successful, client participation is essential. So in this timeline of a sample migration from on-premise to cloud, what we've illustrated here are those activities that are primarily our responsibility as an implementation partner, those that are led by you, the client, with active support by us, yellow here, and those that are led by you, the client, such as UAT in blue. And note that up front, the technical efforts are completed pretty quickly, in contrast with the typical on-premise experience with provisioning servers and installing and configuring software. Now, the migration is, as I said, completely dependent on your participation. Your resource needs are going to be low to moderate for initiation through artifact migration. then you should expect that your resource needs are going to be high for data validation, for user acceptance testing, and deployment. So there's kind of a gradual handoff where we can take the lead on the technical implementation, the migration. We'll need some assistance in accessing your current applications and facilitating some of the moves and configuration to your environment. But then the real bulk of the work and the determinant of the timeline becomes your bandwidth for handling data validation and testing and ultimately the deployment. So a few more observations regarding this timeline. If you're migrating multiple applications, your timelines are going to obviously extend, especially if you have some of the same people as leads or power users for more than one application. Right, so keep that in mind, that you may be looking at this in a staged series of events and need to plan a little further in advance to complete your migration. I'd also highlight, as we mentioned, that this is a simple migration, and we really encourage you to consider using this opportunity of your move to the cloud to enhance your current processes and leverage some of the newer features that are available. If you can afford to extend the timeline a bit, it can produce some pretty significant business results. Now, some migrations take longer than others. For example, if you're moving from HFM to FCCS, while there are accelerators for moving the metadata and reports into the cloud from HFM, the nature of HFM is that the financial close process is custom configured, and sometimes with pretty complex rule sets. So the greater the complexity of the HFM implementation on premise, the more effort that's going to be required to understand those rule sets and adapt them to FCCS. In addition, whatever application you've got on premise, if it's an older implementation, it may use conventions such as member naming that aren't compatible with the newer applications and require some review and updates. And finally, larger implementations with a lot of users are likely going to require longer testing timeframes and greater change management through it. From a scheduling perspective, we've got to always keep in mind that everyone has their regular job to keep up with. So it's important to be sensitive and exercise advanced planning in establishing the timeline. So for example, you'll want to avoid quarter end closes for financial close applications. You'll want to take into consideration the timing for the annual budget process when you're talking about a planning application. And just a word about how important it is to approach your effort with a formal project methodology. Given the short timeline of a quick migration, it's very important to have active knowledge transfer throughout the process. And you may also want to give consideration to engaging a managed services partner, given the significantly reduced dependency on technical administration. The managed services can include application administration, it can be support for you as a customer application administrator, and they can be support for break fix and issue resolution. So that brings us to the business results and what to anticipate. And we've talked about some of the benefits of adopting the cloud platform, but now we want to touch on how those benefits translate into business results for other clients that have migrated to the cloud. Now, we're all striving to optimize the work experience of our employees, and one way to do this is to provide them with the latest technology, with the greatest ease of use and a consistent user interface. And Oracle provides that across all the EPM cloud applications through a simplified presentation that's customizable by the user. Now, from an integration perspective, the cloud application provides for automated direct integration capabilities. And with the bundling of the applications in the Oracle EPM Standard Cloud and Oracle EPM Enterprise Cloud offerings, you end up with the ideal platform for building best-in-class operations. The integration opportunities also extend to other Oracle platforms, including ERP and analytics. One example of this that we would love to show you sometime is a financial variance analysis application that we've built to integrate ERP account balances and underlying journal entries with budgets and forecasts residing in planning for transparent access to information through direct connections into the Oracle Analytics Cloud Service application, or OAKS. Now, from a savings perspective, we talked about lower application infrastructure costs, but you can also anticipate that you'll see some reductions in some of your application administration efforts, such as security, which is now centralized, and some streamlined operations that are driven almost exclusively by self-sufficient finance systems team. You know, the keys to the application and its management move into that business function. Finally, from a feature perspective, there are two considerations. First is that moving to the cloud, you'll get immediate access to additional features. And secondly, as new features become available, as John mentioned, they'll quickly be made available to all the cloud customers without any need for the client to upgrade or patch. So what do you do? If you've reviewed the latest rankings from the Gartner Group, you've seen that Oracle holds a lead position in the market for cloud-based EPM software solutions. The magic quadrant on the left is for cloud financial planning and analysis solutions, and the one on the right is for cloud financial close solutions. So of note here is that only Oracle appears in the upper right leader quadrant for both solutions. So formal evaluation by Gartner highlights Oracle as a top choice in either category, and even more so when you're looking for an integrated platform for your financial systems. And both of these applications are included in the Oracle EPM Standard Cloud subscription. Now, considering that this evaluation is based on selecting a solution from all the options in the market, as existing Oracle users, your value proposition is even greater. We've talked about the ease of migration for your on-premise applications and the ease of adoption for your users. As existing customers, you can count on the fact that Oracle will work with you to make the transition a sound financial decision for you. So in closing, John and I would encourage you to contact your Oracle representative to talk about the EPM Cloud. And we absolutely invite you to contact us to evaluate migration and reimplementation options. So now we will move into the Q&A section of this presentation. And Erica, I will hand this back to you.
Great, thank you, Dan. So we have had a handful of questions come through. We'll start to go through them. If you have questions, again, please feel free to enter them into the question pane, and we will do our best to get to everybody's questions. Okay, the first question, does HFM go off of support as well?
Yes, it absolutely does. 11.1.2.4 and 3, all Hyperion applications will no longer have Premier support, and there is not an extended support option from Oracle.
Great, thank you, Dan. Next question is, how many consulting resources on average are required for migrating to the cloud for the 4-month time frame shown?
So from a consulting resource perspective, we like to approach it from a two-pronged aspect. We have a resource who will be focused on kind of the technical side of configuring the application. And we have a resource who focuses on understanding the business processes and assisting with some of the change management and test planning and the user side of things. Depending on the nature of the migration, if there are additional updates that you're looking to make to reports or the like, we have the option to bring in other resources, including offshore resources if we have a large amount of specific work that needs to be addressed. But generally, I'd say 2, and those are not full-time throughout the entire process.
Okay, great, thank you. The next question, now is not a good time for us to be taking on major application changes. What will happen if we don't do anything?
Yeah, I'll jump in here, Erica. So, unfortunately, the clock is ticking, and various infrastructure components will reach or have reached a point of where the vendor is no longer providing support, and that includes patching security vulnerabilities. So, that's why our message is now is the time to assess your situation and make your plans. Well, you still have plenty of time to execute them, and we're open for, a casual conversation of what your options would be.
Great. Thank you, John. Next question, can the cloud applications do everything that the on-premise applications can, specifically for planning in HFM?
Dan, I'll jump in here too. So, this is it's a relevant question because, once upon a time when the cloud applications were first introduced, they had limitations in their capabilities. And the good news is that landscape is very different now. Cloud planning is a very mature product with a lot of features and capabilities that aren't even available on the on-premise version at this time. And financial close on the cloud used to be called FCCS. It's reached its feature parity with HFM, the on-prem version of it. It's built, the built-in functionality in financial close makes it something of a different animal where it used to be more of an HFM light. So you aren't getting quite comparable apples to apples, but I think they're all there right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question, are you saying that there is never a good time to upgrade to EPM 11.2? What if we move our applications to cloud-based servers?
Yeah, I'll grab this one, John. I'd say, no, we are not saying that. We have clients that have decided that they're not moving to the cloud at this time and have EPM 11.2 upgrades in progress. The reasons we're seeing for this tend to be either that the enterprise has not yet adopted a cloud strategy, their IT is not willing to look at the cloud, and finance doesn't want to force that issue, or that they must move immediately to replace an out of support environment such as Windows 2008 R2, which stopped being supported in January, and they have other initiatives in progress that make it so that the finance resources they would need for cloud migration just aren't available at the moment. So for the most part, I characterize these as interim solutions, and our clients are aware that their total costs are going to be higher by deferring the timing for their move to the cloud.
Great. Thank you, Dan. We have another question. What are the implications of migrating to the cloud if we have workforce planning or other modules?
Okay, I take this. There are really two options here. First, you can migrate your existing modules to the cloud where they will continue to function, but with you responsible for any changes or updates or support. Now, if you're using minimal functionality in that module, like a toned down workforce planning, that might be worth considering. But the second option is that you can take the time to review your processes and take advantage fully of what's going to be a much more robust set of functionality in the pre-built modules that are available in the cloud. So we always encourage you to look at that. Those represent some solid best practices and are much more mature than even the on-premise modules were in their day.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dan. Next question, what features that exist in the cloud application but not in on-premise Hyperion planning are most commonly adopted with cloud implementations?
Okay, I'll grab this one too. Some of the popular features that clients have real positive reactions to are, for example, rolling forecasts. You can go in and select a rolling forecast window length. So you can make it anything up to 3 years of rolling forecast if that fits your objectives and your plan processes. There's a feature for predictive planning, which gets a lot of attention. With predictive planning, you look at an account and you can see projections that are generated for that account based on historical actuals. And they include seasonality and trends that are in that data. And then based on a graph of that projected account forecast, you can adjust points on that graph, and the numbers that are in your planning form will adjust to reflect those changes you made. So that could be a way to pretty quickly target a forecast and to validate that what your projections are in line with what has happened historically. There are also some application audit capabilities that are useful for monitoring changes, and not quite a feature, but I think you'd find that in the case of Hyperion planning on the cloud, performance is particularly strong because your underlying Essbase engine is some pretty beefy Exalytic processors that are operating behind the scenes. So that typically provides a visible result for clients.
Great, thanks, Dan. It looks like we have one more question that just came through. What other vendors should we consider before committing to the Oracle Cloud?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So, we're an Oracle implementation partner for a reason. So you can guess what I'm going to say. I can sincerely say that Oracle, they have a massive commitment, and you've heard the number of $5 billion in development a year, and that's not a small number. So they're committed to getting this cloud right, and it's been rolling out very successfully. And it's been a challenge, and at times for us as well, but it's really paying off right now and for the future. So our experience as reinforced by that Gartner group evaluation, so the Magic Quadrant that Dan went over, it makes me very comfortable in recommending the Oracle EPM suite of solutions for cloud.
Yeah, and I would echo that. And I'd also add that so happens it's fourth quarter for Oracle, so now might be a good time to get the ball rolling and be a part of their year-end closes. And if there are no other questions, then Erica, we just want to thank everybody for their time, and we would welcome the opportunity to have an informal, non-threatening, non-binding conversation with anyone about what their options are.
Great. Thanks, Dan and John. And yes, thanks everyone for joining us. And just a reminder that the session was recorded, and we will be sending it out for anybody that's interested once it's available. So thanks so much for joining us today.